Getting angry with Twitter and running in the street and screaming at people. That's what we don't do. Well, I guess some of us do, just not on this show. Hi, everybody. Oh, is the camera's on? This thing on? Nice to see everybody. Or listen to me. I guess that's what you're doing. You're listening to me. Some of you on Spotify or Apple Tunes. Apple Tunes?
Apple Tunes.
Have you been on the Apple Tunes? Good for you. Good for me. All right. I guess this is recording. It's nice to hear everybody. I can't hear any of you. You can hear me. That's what we're talking about here. It's Capes and Cowls. It's the big thing. And we're going to talk about Ant-Man Quantumania. Oh, man. This is Eternals all over again, as I thought. A lot of people don't like this movie, man. And I knew it coming out of that theater. I don't think a lot of people are going to like this movie. I liked it. I don't give a shit. So whether you liked it or not, that's up to you. But subscribe to the channel, will you? Hit that button. Show a little class. Just an ounce. We'll talk about, this is not a spoiler. We got this full spoiler with me and Winston and Coy coming out on Monday. We'll get into that. But we're going to talk about some of these other stories as well. I mean, we'll definitely talk about Ant-Man because there's a big story. For some reason, Ant-Man 3 is a second rotten Marvel film. That and Eternals on Rotten Tomatoes. Comic book movie did a worst ranked MCU. We'll see if we get into that. There's a big shuffle with Marvel stuff, and Kevin Feige addressed a lot of the stuff, but they also said they're going to scale back on some of the amount of stuff coming out right now, and I think that's why right now they're saying that Secret Invasion and Loki are really the only guaranteed shows that are coming out in 2023. Is that the right move? And then there's a rumor, man. Ian McKellen, Magneto, is he going to be in Deadpool 3? We'll talk about that and more on the show today. So, as I mentioned with Spotify, hit the get on over there and follow us on Spotify because we've been in the top charts, which has been great. And if you guys, first time we did it, so if you guys head over there and you follow us, it helps tremendously. It really does. Patreon.com/thebigthingshow. I got some announcements going on with what we're going to be doing. We're starting a website soon, so I'll talk to you about that in a minute. But get yourself a shirt. Get yourself a shirt, man. Whether it's the Black Knight, or it could be a whole bunch of other things that we have going on. Black Knight, we've got the Capes and Cowls, big thing, that and more. But you got to go over there and check it out. All right, it's me. It is Coy Jandreau and Winston A. Marshall. It's Capes and Cowls, everybody. You ready to do it? Yeah, me too. Let's do it. What up, everybody? Capes and Cowls. Again, it's me. You saw me before. Coy is there. Winston's there. And there's the three of us.
I was trying to get a shot.
That's all good. I appreciate that. You know, after last week.
I mean,
I've been coming up with some white people burners. Like, I feel like every show now I have a reason to just make.
See how fun it is?
Terrible.
See how fun it is?
That's completely different.
That's what you love?
That's completely I have been making white people uncomfortable since middle school.
And that's what you love?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's very simple. It's very simple. I grew up as the black kid surrounded by white people, and just by being the solo dolo or one of very few, it became very normal for me to feel like another. So there's nothing more fun than watching a white person say something so innocent. And like, what the fuck do you mean by that?
All you got to do, you're not even necessarily, you don't even have to say that. All you got to do from now on is just do this. Oh, shoot. Yeah. Interesting.
Absolutely. I've done that before.
Yeah.
That's one of my
tension,
favorites. I was like,
the sheer knowledge I'm on camera and the fear that brings. This whole aura of knowing I've done something horribly wrong.
Oh, you do that every week on this show.
Every week. Every
really
week.
Do.
Just
you
the fear.
You find something. And the funny thing is, these trolls that keep coming for you, if they needed cannon fodder, I feel bad that I'm arming them. But like, shit.
They're just out there.
Night. Colonizing my screen.
I mean, in fairness, the colonizer one is funny because, like, I celebrated the Queen's death more than most. And, like, I appreciate the fact that she caused a lot of problems for both of our people. Like, she is the potato famine one away.
You really have a Sith Lord living in your soul.
I got a lot of hate in me.
You really do.
I do because I don't get to fight anymore because I use my face.
They're not even on the show right now. I don't even have them sponsored, but BetterHelp. You got to really check out BetterHelp. I'm
in therapy. I mean, I value therapy. I'd be way worse without it.
Use the discount.
I just think think people are the worst.
Here's what you need to do, Coy. What you need to do is
Get a nap.
Go that's true. Do that
Somebody
too.
made me get up extra early today.
First of all,
Not
no
me.
more of this.
No, that's key. I caffeinate my water now.
The Roadrunner.
Go watch the last season of Atlanta, the second episode. There was a whole thing about therapy and being petty that I think you will learn so much.
You know what I want to do is I want to get every time I just want I read one of his tweets. I just want that soundbite of that dude. Daddy, chill. It's like,
I love your description when I came in. I pictured Daniel Radcliffe in that movie with the guns in his hands, like in the bathrobe, just like wandering with.
I said every time I see
Guns Akimbo,
time I see Coy tweeting now, I just feel like he's in his bathrobe and underwear in the middle of the street in a bad neighborhood, just like this.
So you're calling him that one artist that got really popular in the pandemic. What's it like, Mark Riblet?
Oh, Mark Rebillet!
Yeah, where
I
he's just
love
like,
Mark Rebillet,
everybody get the fuck up, let's go. It's him just fucking tweeting and shit.
Dude, I've seen him live. He's incredible. He's incredible. I love that man
beat the
so
hell
much.
out of this show already. A lot of editing.
We're
A lot of editing.
into it.
But yeah, no.
I think it's an important thing to stand up for the little guy, even when you're the little guy. And sometimes trolls delete their accounts, and I feel better for it.
Okay, Paul Rudd.
Yeah.
Just saying.
I'll tell you.
You can always be bigger. You can also.
You say that now. I think you'll wake up one day and go the same way.
I hope so, because it's fun and exhausting.
All right.
It's in between sets at the gym. The pumpkin's so much better when you're angry. It's
Hey,
right
listen,
there. They're fueling my gains.
Play a video game.
You're gonna be
know.
seriously.
I'm down 4%
You know what?
body fat, down
Here,
6 pounds.
You know what?
Trolls.
Go jerk off in the woods or something.
We're in Los Angeles. I gotta go to Big Bear. I got work to do.
Anyway, listen.
Just
Hey, kids.
Hey.
What a
For
show
an
today is.
review.
Yeah. Oh my God. I don't even know how much this is going to make the beginning of the show. All right, look, we got things to talk about. It's one of those mornings. So who knows? Maybe sometimes you're going to get a really clean show, and sometimes you have today. There's so much that we can really dive into, and I think that the first thing that we should dive into, to be honest, is this. The news that it's the first Rotten movie. It's our second Rotten movie next to Eternals, and as I mentioned to you guys, we're going to get into our full kind of spoiler discussions, and even like Greg Alba, myself, and Campy will be at Flappers at a sold-out show, so that'll be fun. This Sunday, we'll be there talking about all this, which will make an interesting conversation, I'm sure. But Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania becomes the second MCU movie to drop to Rotten status on Rotten Tomatoes. This is, of course, from Comic Book Movie. It's probably fair to say that Phase 5 hasn't got off to the best of starts. Well, critically. We don't know yet for as far as financially. The review embargo for Marvel Studios' Ant-Man and the Wasp lifted earlier today, and while the first wave of verdicts were mixed positive for the most part, the critical consensus soon turned to the negative. Peyton Reed's sci-fi adventure is currently sitting at 54%, it's 51 now, with 121 reviews counted. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania most lacks the spark of fun that elevated earlier ventures, but Jonathan Majors Kang is a thrilling villain poised to alter the course of the MCU. While the score will likely fluctuate over the next few days, as things stand, this makes Quantumania only the second ever Marvel Studios films to drop to Rotten. In other words, Eternals at 47. Disappointing, but the MCU has proven to be a critic proof to a large extent, as Ant-Man 3 is projected to take in as close to $280 million worldwide this weekend. Do you guys plan on catching Ant-Man? Yada, 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 yada. All right. So we can, again, we'll do non-spoiler kind of thoughts and things. We all have our non-spoiler reviews up and have talked about it on other shows, and people know. So when I came out of this movie, my out of the theater reaction was like, look, this is about as science fiction as you get. It's chaotic at times. It's loud at times. It kind of gets unraveled. But to me, I felt like it kind of pulled itself back together at the end and ended itself with a nice bow. I enjoyed it because I like seeing different kind of science fiction. This is the most science fiction out of all the Marvel movies, even more so than Guardians.
yeah, because with Guardians, you don't really explore the worlds as much.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a science. I mean, they're both kind of science fiction fantasy for sure. But someone had commented on my thing. Well, I don't know if this is science fiction. I was like, well, all the quantum physics stuff they talk about, this is science fiction.
And the creatures and the character design is very much science
well,
fiction.
it's also, but it's. I can also see where someone would say that it's science fiction fantasy as well. That's why you see when I was telling you guys there was elements of Star Wars and there's elements of Dune and Strange World and Blade Runner and all these different things and John Carter from Mars. There's like all these different things that they incorporated. But I will say that all of the criticisms, like the real criticisms that I have seen from this movie, I agree with.
Yeah,
I agree with. There's nothing. Sometimes you see a movie and you go, I don't know what movie these people were watching.
those Eternals for us, I felt
Yeah.
like most of the criticism of Eternals I didn't agree with.
Yeah, but right. I mean, there's some that's a little too
It's not
long
perfect,
or something.
but
Right.
there were like more logic-based critiques here.
I would watch this movie 1,000 times in a row than to ever watch Thor: Love and Thunder again.
It is definitely better than Thor: Love and Thunder.
I thought so too.
And I also feel like the issues I have with this, for me personally, and this is going to stay non-spoiler, but the issues for me aren't until the third act. And I enjoyed the first two acts enough that I'd want people to see it. And that's what I was trying to get across to people, is that you can think something doesn't work, but you can think it has merit. And you can think that there is enough in the beginning to justify the end while still being like, this doesn't land enough for me to say it's good.
Right.
Like, I consider this in that C minus range. Yeah.
C minus. That's. I mean, that's a. I thought you were. You're in the rotten.
I saw it a second time, and the solutions are so obvious to me that it dropped actually because of me going like, that would fix this, which I'll discuss. But I definitely found that it is below average. So to me, the bell curve is a C is an average film, C plus slightly above average, B is good, A is exceptional. So it's just below average. So it'd be like a 70, 69 thereabouts.
So that's
fresh.
and that's So that's the other thing, by the way, that people don't realize. We always try to reiterate how Rotten Tomatoes works, right? Rotten Tomatoes it's just a whole bunch of people who give their scores.
Right.
And if you have, let's say you think it's okay. You don't think it's terrible, but you think it's okay, and you give it a, whatever it is, a 2.9 instead of 3, right? That is a rotten score now.
Right.
Even if you think it's okay. So it includes into the rotten score. So if some people, this is horrible, that includes into rotten score. It's fine. I'm not going to give it, I don't think it's terrible, so I'll go 3. That adds to the fresh, where you don't think it's like when you see all these fresh reviews, like if someone, a lot of times, if someone's like at 99%, you're like, oh, everybody loved it. There are probably a couple of reviews in there that said it was good.
Yeah.
And so that's how it all works. So there's a lot of people who may think that in this rotten, that think it stinks.
Right.
And there's a lot of rotten that maybe just couldn't, like you said, C minus or so you
right
can,
there.
But Winston, because you came out of it, it's kind of like I did, thinking it was just kind of a crazy science fiction ride.
Yeah, I initially came out of the film just being like, I really enjoyed this. As far as what's going, like I took a buddy of mine to the screener, and he did not. But that's because he doesn't keep up with everything.
Right,
so
right.
He remembers the other 2 Ant-Man films, but he doesn't, and he's seen all of the MCU, but it's not something he visits a lot. And he doesn't know anything about the comics. So like the post-credit scenes, he saw them and he was like, what does that mean? And what does that mean? So for him, he spent a lot of time being like, he's a writer. He was like, there was too much
Inside baseball.
Yeah.
And I get it.
And I was like,
That's the problem that they're at right now.
And without getting into any spoiler stuff, I didn't love how Hope felt like she got regulated to the back of the bus.
Again.
Like, that seemed weird for her to be the second name in the movie.
Roxy and I talked about that on the show yesterday. It's called Ant-Man and the Wasp. She's barely in the movie.
There's a side plot where they put her.
She's got something to finally do,
Right.
and when she does, it's significant.
Right.
But Roxy made a great point. She goes, well, if they called Michelle Pfeiffer the Wasp, then it's accurate.
Absolutely.
And Michelle Pfeiffer is great in this movie.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
she was the MVP for me.
Yeah.
Jonathan for me, but it was so off-putting.
Get your head out of his shot, will you?
I just saw it. I leaned. Look, hold on. Go to the wide. Go to the wide.
No,
go to the wide. You want to see how immediately on my body position change? This is where I'm at now.
Oh, this is
I just,
this.
yeah, you
Oh,
see this?
okay.
This is,
Alright.
I pivoted.
That's
Yeah,
Winston's penis.
Just
Original.
like reaching over, just a little, mind the balls.
You see that? All the way to the other side of the screen.
That's why I gave him the
Snake
wide
the
shot.
toilets, will you?
So I gave him the wide. This is for him.
So
I love that it's bouncing. When it's jiggling. That makes it, it's a whole bunch.
I know, right?
Go ahead.
It's the vibe.
There you go.
Yeah.
Anyway, so honestly, for Evangeline Lilly on top of that, to make a comment about, I think it's time to have a Wasp movie, and I was like, how? When you literally weren't really in this last one. That to me was the only thing that when I came out of it, like, because I have this tendency to just shut my brain off whenever I watch a movie, and I just try and take everything in. So I'm sure watching it a second time, I will feel less about it. But that was the one glaring thing that I think was so upsetting, that there's a big moment in Act 3 with her where I was like, this was not earned.
No, I agree. And well, here's the funny thing is that out of the three of us, I probably seem like, for me, because science fiction is always, if you lean into the science fiction, you're going to catch my attention, right? And I think of the three of us, I enjoyed it the most. However, I have no need or intent. I talked to Coy on the phone the other day.
You're like,
I was supposed to go to that same screening he did, and I'm like, nah. I don't. Yeah, it's not like I'm not rushing out to see this movie again. It's like I enjoyed it. I like seeing the science fiction side of it. There were some moments I really dug. I thought Jonathan Majors was fantastic. Mm-hmm. I'm glad. I want to see more of him, and I'm glad that he's the guy that they're leaning on. And people really don't listen, though. I can see why you tweet as much as you do, but people don't. What I was saying inside of my review is that they're certainly setting him up to try to topple Thanos. And they're like, he's not better than Thanos, man. Shut up. And I'm like, we haven't any time to spend with them there. I was just telling you they're setting him up to do that. Thanos is the GOAT for sure, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, I think him and Vader are like.
Oh, no, I'm talking about it in MCU.
But I'm saying in cinema, like I would put him in the same. Not saying he's better than Vader, but he's in the category of greatest villains of all time.
Yeah, because he had to do. What he did for sure. You're not touching Thanos anytime soon, but there's stuff that they set up in this, and I thought it was a good kickoff to Phase 5 because what it did well is I thought it set the stakes of who this guy is and what they're going to. Now, you might not like this particular movie, but when he shows up again after this movie, you're going to go, oh, wait a minute. Wow. There he is again, this guy. And so that to me, that they succeeded there. Right. And I think that I'm very curious what the audience is going to say, though, because now the audience, because the critics didn't love Eternals, and the audience was on the same board as the critics. Because I get a lot of times when the three of us all liked Eternals, and I get comments all the time. Oh, I thought I was the only one who liked Eternals.
Yeah, there's like a quiet little, and then they get.
We live on our own island. Yeah, we live on our own island, and I understand that for sure. But now I'm wondering if this is going to be one of those ones that, because sometimes the critics are on the different island than the audience. Now, I do think this is going to be more of a Eternals thing. I think there's going to be a ton of people who don't like this movie at all. Science fiction wise, though, man, you got me.
For sure. I think the only other critique that really got me, but then I think the rest of it I vibed with pretty well. I didn't really understand some of the power scaling. We'll get more into that with the spoiler.
I think this is a movie that's really tricky to non-spoiler quantify the issues of, because most of my issues are in the third act. Therefore, but that is one I had, and I also think that there is a certain element of how to quantify this of tonal issues in the third act that undermine the first two, because I really enjoyed the first two having a lot of strong creativity, the character design, the sci-fi elements, the visuals, all of that was really stunning. But then the third act was like, we're going to keep that, but we're going to do a very linear thing with it. And I was like, we were doing so good at being weird, and you just kept the weird imagery, but then it got very not weird.
Yeah, and I know, again, I'm going to be in my own island here. I like this better than the second one.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, only because and I think I know that I'm going to be the only one saying that, because the reason why is that I just felt like it had the same issue that I initially had with Guardians, and I watched it again recently and felt the same way. It's good, but the problem is that it's just like everybody. It's one of my lower tier Marvel movies because it's like everybody has a joke. It's just a full on comedy. This had comedy in it.
Sure.
But it was at the right moments.
I really liked the comedy in this.
Yeah, it was at the right moments.
More than I expected, to be honest.
It was at the right moments. And then there's the character. People, and we again, spoiler is going to be coming on Monday, but what I will say is in the trailer, and you've seen it, they show MODOK in the trailer, and without getting into it, what I'm very curious about is that I don't have any attachment to MODOK. I didn't know. I mean, from the comics, I didn't know anything about him. So, and I mentioned this to you when we spoke. I am just very curious how people are going to respond, because his backstory is different than it is here,
right?
But it also is significant to the trilogy itself. But what I will say was this: there is a particular moment that I felt it was the only time, and it was with MODOK, and it was towards the end. You guys know it's a very funny line, and it got the biggest laugh in the theater. But I said, was that the time to do it? Because I know it's funny.
I think I know what you're talking about, I thought it was funny.
Everybody did.
I thought it was the time to do it. Actually, that's one of my favorite. I think that might be my favorite line.
We'll talk about it.
But MODOK was the MVP, surprise MVP for me. Like, I knew I'd love Jonathan Majors. I knew I'd love Michelle Pfeiffer, because I heard she did a lot, but I didn't think I'd love MODOK. And like, MODOK totally worked for me as the surprise of the film. Like, and I think that's maybe the most polarizing character. Like, I've seen like Perry hated MODOK. I love MODOK.
But the funny thing about that is, I will give Peyton Reed and are we allowed to say the actor since he's on like?
I'd leave it
IMDb?
alone for now.
Okay. So the actor and Peyton Reed, I think, really nailed it because from every source that I've seen of MODOK, whether it be animated or in the books or video games, he is both simultaneously extremely smart and deadly, but kind of a putz.
Yeah.
And so they really nailed that.
Yeah, that from what I read up on it afterwards too, and from what I read, the actual character seemed to stay true to what the character was. It's just the actual backstory and origin of that character is significantly different. Now,
And the MCU does that a lot.
But what I'm saying is I don't care because like I didn't read it. So but I do know that if there are certain things that I do read and certain things I'm like, I don't know why they changed that. I don't know why they did that. But I don't know. But we'll get into all that. But otherwise, look, this is they said it in the article here. This will not be a reflection on the box office though. The box, and I actually think it's going to be one of those things where people are not going to go, oh, the critics, it's mixed here. I'm not going to see this movie now. I think this is going to be like, I want to judge for myself.
I'm curious why they don't. Yeah.
I think it's going to be, I want to judge for myself, but I don't necessarily think that means, well, the critics are wrong. I think there's going to be a lot of people who don't like this movie, and I really do, and I think that, and as I was saying, like there were two movies, by the way, that Perry and I both saw, and that is this and Creed 3. And reading those. Well, she saw Creed 2 too. Shut up.
Years ago, we disagreed.
Years ago, yeah. No, she tweeted out her thoughts on it, and I liked both movies more than her, but I agreed with her criticisms on both of them and understood the criticisms. Sometimes I've been on a different page of Perry. I'm like, I don't know what she's talking about with that particular thing. Her criticisms on both those inside of her tweets were extremely accurate, but it's just a matter of how you perceive them.
And how much you weigh those particular things. Because I had the same thing with Roxy with her loving Quantumania. I agreed with everything she had to say.
Right.
But the things she loved, I didn't think outweighed the things I didn't like.
Right.
So I can go like that I agree with, but still feel how I feel.
Sure.
And I think that's what people don't understand about the movie going experience. Like a movie is you interpreting the art that someone else is
watch
positioning.
things differently, yeah.
And that's because your life has been different.
100%.
So like you can't go, my 30 years of existing, this equals this, and then expect that critic to feel the same. So people getting mad at Rotten Tomatoes is patently ridiculous just because of the concept of experience.
Yeah.
Right. Well, it's interesting that you mentioned that because I think, and this is not to say that this is some sort of stoner comedy, but there are, because there's obviously
More of a
very real
psychedelic
drama,
comedy.
but
Tripping shrooms, yeah.
this definitely because of the color palette, because of the world and the way that it's built out. Like I wouldn't go watch Star Wars stoned. Like I mean, I would now because I've seen it a million times.
Sure.
But like
at the jump.
But like this on a first or a second watch, this is a movie that feeds into that purely because there are a lot of trippy moments.
Yeah, of course.
Because of what the quantum verse is.
Yeah.
I definitely think that people that have done psychedelics are going to get more out of it. Like I definitely enjoyed elements of it more because I like mushrooms and acid and things. So I think there's definitely an element where creativity in the 70s and all those things that fuel the comic book psychedelic movement are going to enhance the movie and then back to the audience that have done that.
Which, by the way, I really loved, again, with not getting into specifics, but there is a cantina scene and it's very Star Wars. I love
people forget. Someone wrote to me the other day and they're like, they go, do you think you ever see Peyton Reed do Star Wars? I'm like, he did. He directed the Luke Skywalker episode.
I didn't
in
realize
Mandalorian.
that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, people don't realize that Peyton Reed directed Mandalorian.
That's cool.
So he took some of that with him into Quantum Realm. I thought as a science fiction movie, he did a good job. But yeah, I'm very curious to how it's going to play in the box office. But now I throw it to you guys. Let me ask you the question. If you were planning to see Quantumania, has this mixed review from everybody changed your opinion on wanting to go see it? Are you now saying to yourself, you know what? I don't know if I want to see it anymore. Or is it like we said, no, I want to judge it for myself and I want to check it out. Put it in the comments. Let me know exactly what you think. Yeah, Winston.
You know what I liked it more than?
What's that?
I liked it more than Multiverse of Madness.
Me too.
I had a very similar issue with it as Multiverse of Madness, which is really interesting. I'm excited to talk about that.
Here's the thing, though, with that movie is that as we've mentioned before, now any Raimi head right now listening to what you just said is
throw bows.
Going nuts, right? And I understand that. If you're a Sam Raimi fan,
of course,
Sam Raimi delivered on a Sam Raimi movie. Yeah. If you're not a big Sam Raimi head, you feel like we do, and it's like, man, I don't know, it's just another movie I don't necessarily need to see. I don't necessarily need to see Quantumania again, but it's more in that science fiction Star Wars thing. Like I told you, my 11-year-old, when we went to see it, I took her to see the movie. She turned to me at one point. She goes, "Hey, Dad, is this a Marvel movie or a Star Wars movie?" And I was like, okay, that's but you feel that. You feel
that's like the Batman with Fincher. Like, I know a lot of people want a more whimsical Batman. I think they're about to get it with, The Brave and the Bold. But everybody was like, why does he always have to be so dark and gloomy and all these things? And like, as a Fincher fan, I think Matt Reeves made that love letter very clear. And that's what I wanted. But I understand also people that don't like the Batman, because I'd rather an artist be specific. I'd rather the art we get be charged in a certain way. And I also think that maybe not everything being for everybody is the way we keep it fresh.
Yeah, well, you got a new Batman movie coming out. And by the way, it's called The Flash. We didn't we haven't talked about it since. So we should actually we'll transition to that. We'll talk about The Flash, because that wasn't on my news stories, but I realized that as we're talking about it, I'm like, the three of us haven't even talked about it yet. So, and the Guardians trailer too. So we'll talk about both those trailers in a minute. But I also wanted to tell you guys, by the way, let's talk a little bit about Athletic Greens, man. I love it. I love Athletic Greens. You guys know I love Athletic Greens. I've been talking about it forever. And it is just so amazing because I've been using it every day. You guys know we have, it literally is one of the only sponsors we have on the show. Sorry, Manscaped. They're in my bathroom. I love it. And it's so good. I take it, I shake it up on my in a water bottle, and I got it. I was talking about the other day when I did a set at Flappers, and I needed a little boost. I had Athletic Greens. I was ready to go. I had one of the best sets I've had in a long time, and I'm going to give the credit to Athletic Greens. They even wrote all the jokes for me. That's not true, but I just noticed my energy, the sleep quality definitely helps for sure. And if you want to take a whole bunch of different vitamins, pills, and everything, and God bless you. Why would you want to do that? This does everything. It was designed with ease in mind. You can live a healthier and better life, and without having to do a lot. It's great. It's a good life hack, man. They have 75 vitamins, there's minerals, whole food source, superfoods, all that. It's amazing. It comes every month. Super easy. Make it a daily habit. You just take care of your body, and it's really that simple. So if you're looking for an easier way to take supplements, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. But you have to go to athleticgreens.com/bigthing. athleticgreens.com/bigthing. Check it out, everybody. You guys love Athletic Greens. We all love Athletic Greens. I always put, and I pin now, our sponsors on the on our first comment. So if you're always wondering, well, how do I help out the show? How can I help out the show? Not only can you help out the show, you can help out yourself and make your life better here by getting Athletic Greens. Do it. Let the English see you do it. All right. Princeton still doesn't get that reference. No. Go watch Braveheart, will you heathen?
One day.
Look, man, I was about to go watch the Rocky movies. You told me not to because reasons.
I don't even remember.
It was something about you wanted to film me watching it and my reactions or something.
I can't remember anything.
I'm sure.
It's only 8 of them. It's fine. We'll have a good time.
I was on with Roxy yesterday. My mind was mush because it's the first day today. Was my daughter today? The little one woke up at 6:40. Thank God. No. That's late.
Oh,
she's been waking up at 5:30 the last couple of days. Oh yeah. So my mind was mush. So Roxy was talking about Valentine's Day. It was when we taped it. It was the day before, and I was like, when was Valentine's Day? When was that? She's like, it was yesterday. And I go, really? Yeah, I guess that checks out. But my mind was just complete. I mean, we taped Sith Council at the same time. Mike's like, what? What's going on with you and words today? It was bad.
What'd you guys do? Did you do anything? I mean, we don't have to talk about this very long.
We did kind of a chill thing. My wife and I. I was talking about. I got her the AirPods because she had washed them in the laundry.
Oh.
Yeah, so she's been bummed out. So we just did that. We just kind of hung out at the house and had a little meal. I was going to take her to lunch, but she just needed some rest. Yeah, but other than that, all right. Let's get into the. What I'll do here is bring up the Batman again, the Batman trailer, Flash trailer, man. It hit on Sunday, and it stole the internet, man. We thought we were going to get all these trailers. Some people thought you were going to get the Marvels. Some people thought you were going to get all these.
We talked that night. We're like, I guess we're done. I guess
that was it.
All right.
That was it, and you really only got 2 big comic book movie trailers, and that was The Flash and Guardians. I guess we can talk about Guardians first because, I mean, there's really not too much to talk about with Guardians.
On what we had already.
Yeah, they didn't give I think that I like one of the things, and we'll talk about this in the spoiler review for Ant-Man, the trailers were bad for Ant-Man. They gave away too much.
Oh, yeah.
Way
and
too
Guardians
much.
is doing the opposite. I think James Gunn has a lot more control.
That's my point.
Yeah.
Is that the trailers so far have given me just about an emotional level. There's a couple things that I'm like, I hope that isn't what I think it is. Like there's certain people crying over things and things like, I think this is what it is, but I hope that I'm wrong. But the trailers were good. I loved it was a perfect blend of the Guardians humor with the mix of the story. Like the Nebula, by the way, you talk about somebody with a 180 for me. Mm-hmm. I did not like that character and did not like what Karen Gillan was doing in the beginning, and I love her now.
I think she's one of the MVPs of the entire MCU. Between Infinity War and Endgame and what she's able to do in the Guardians films, which is a very different type of humor than even the broader Endgame and Infinity War, and keeping the character that, if played incorrectly, is stoic in a boring way. Yeah. Instead, she's able to bring so much life to being droll. And I think Karen Gillan is one of the best actors in the whole thing.
Mm-hmm. She's been great lately.
She's been absolutely phenomenal. I mean, I think both. I highly suggest if you did not watch the holiday special, you need.
I love this holiday.
Yeah.
No, I know you have. I'm talking about anybody that's watching this. Because even with. She maybe has 3 lines in the whole thing.
She nails it.
She kills it.
Her last line, well, there's a particular line that she has that Gunn wrote that's such Gunn humor, but how stoic she is when she nails this humor, and she does it in this trailer.
Well,
this trailer at the end
with the comment about potentially Star-Lord and her dating.
Hilarious.
It's so funny.
Yeah.
And that's I agree with you because she can on a dime go to full-blown assassin.
Yeah.
But then also deal with this. Like there's a lot underneath the surface, which is what's really drawing to her.
And what I like about her character has had a great arc thus far, right?
Yes,
when you look at
right?
Like you look at everything that she's done, that character has done, and just kind of being this the whole time, to actually being able to nail this humor and being part of the crew and being loyal to it, and having that moment in Endgame where she is the kind of the savior and has to take herself out in order to, really have this relationship with her sister. I think she's had that character has had the most growth. Yeah. So she's allowed to be like this comic relief now because we've gotten a lot of the arc. She'll probably have a little bit more now to do with Gamora and everything else too. But I don't know. And I love the idea that Gamora, what did he say? Does he call her a dick? What does he say? He says something about he's like, I was in love with you.
She's like, that's not quite accurate, but close. Yeah,
something like that. He kind of calls her an a-hole or something, and which is that relationship is going to be fun to explore too. So I liked this trailer. I thought it was. I saw a couple people said that they thought it was underwhelming, but I don't agree. I thought it was a pretty. That was a pretty good trailer.
Trailers just need to remind you to go see the movie. They shouldn't give you the movie.
Yeah,
this is reminding you why you love these characters, giving you just a little bit of new stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't want to know the third act, and I feel like we're getting. Marvel does this thing where they give you the announcement trailer, a trailer with story, and then the second full trailer is like the third act. And then the week of the movie, it's like, here's every scene in different orders. So I hope they change that as they're changing everything. One of our news stories is how they're changing everything. Change the trailer.
I was going to say, man, the only way doing something like that works is if every one of your movies is 3 hours.
Yeah.
And so you could get away with it with Wakanda Forever because it really was very surface, but a lot of these, you're right, they've been just giving the whole farm away, and that's
the TV spots are the worst for it because they'll give you moments.
I don't
either.
TV spots.
Yeah, I wait until after I've seen the movie, then I go back and go geez, I'm glad I missed that.
So I didn't watch a lot of TV spots for the Super Bowl, by the way. I didn't watch a lot of them.
I didn't watch the indie one because I want to go in fresh.
Yeah, I mean that was really one of the only ones I did watch.
Was it good?
Yeah, it's good. But I didn't do any reactions or anything to them because it was this. It's 35, 40 seconds. It's not worth it. It's not really. I like to review it afterwards. I don't want to just do no shade to anybody who just does the reactions, but I wanted to do a full review afterwards. And 45 seconds isn't. What am I going to say? Oh, look, he's jumping out of a plane.
He's younger.
Yeah, right. And that was barely so. But it was the only 2 full trailers. Was that?
Yeah.
And then the Flash.
Woo.
Oh man.
Listen. This Flash trailer, we've been talking about this movie, the 3 of us, on this show for months. And we've talked about what we have heard and how good it people have seen it, how great it's been. I talked to my friend again who had seen it last year, and he talked about how great it was, and he said that Keaton stole the show. Well, Keaton steals the show in the trailer.
Yeah.
And what was so great about this trailer was when I thought it was a really good job of building up the anticipation to Keaton, but also showing you exactly what the story is. Because I don't think that Ezra Miller should continue as the Flash after this. I think that, as I've mentioned many times over, I think that they should get the work that they need. I don't believe that the career should be canceled. I mean, they should do an absolute investigation to find out everything that's true and everything that's false. That's all. But I just think too much baggage. Close this movie out. I think that they set up in the trailer that they can do that because they go, why do you, Keaton says it, why do you want to be in here for? And he's like, because I want my mom. Yeah. She's alive here. Keep him there. Keep
Pocket
Barry,
universe
Barry there.
that can run parallel to James Gunn, so you can dip back into it at any point you want.
If you need to.
The way you can have that story land
keeping the door open.
Exactly.
Yes.
The Elseworlds available. Right. And that means Cavill, that means Ezra, that means whoever you want can pop in later.
But even from the standpoint of the way that the route that they've decided to go with Flashpoint, because we saw Ben Affleck in the trailer as well, is that it's not it. I had that one theory that maybe they're bringing back Michael Keaton, but they're making him Thomas Wayne. Now we still don't have proof of it one way or the other, but it seems pretty clear that they're keeping him exactly as he was as Bruce Wayne. So if that's the case, you have literally set up that different people that are the same character look completely different. Yeah, you have set that up, so there is nothing that says that by the time you finish this adventure, Flash makes the ultimate sacrifice, and then all of a sudden. They're not carrying but that's a first person.
I know what you mean. There's a different Flash and all that. But my point in all that to the lead up to it was that they set up Barry, finding the other Barry, getting into this adventure, and the introduction of just really laying it all. Like Zod's in this movie. Here's Michael Shannon going, where you would assume that Barry must alter something and Superman doesn't interfere and Zod and the rest take over the world and metahumans are gone or whatever might happen. It causes some garbage. I actually think that the scene with and it is Kara, by the way. We thought it was going to be Kal-El's daughter. It is not. Right. Yeah. That definitely the cousin. That was the rumor.
What happened?
The rumor was
a rumor that it was Yeah,
there was Kal-El's daughter and not Kara, and they confirmed that it is Kara. But I think that scene in the beginning when he goes there and ship, I think Kara is there. I think that world is not Kal-El. I think that Zod comes in with Kara because she says to him, she goes, "What did you do?" I think that's the beginning of the movie.
Oh, interesting.
I think that's the beginning.
So you think that Zod brings Kara to Earth?
I think something along those lines. I think Kara is there fighting, and then he sees it or whatever it might be. That's the first time they kind of meet each other. And again, this is just me guessing, but I would say that that's where he sees all this kind of, what do I do? And then, you need some help. Yeah. And then that Danny Elfman music. When everything from the TV spot and then the just the way it was delivered, he's gonna have a massive part in this role.
Absolutely. Which I mean, you got the old school Batmobile.
Yeah.
I thought that they would do some sort of update, and I wonder how Michael Keaton feels about it. I thought they would do some sort of update to the neck. He is back
to shoulder turns.
Yep.
Full body turn.
100%.
But yet somehow kicking more ass, which is what's confusing. It's like, you can't move your neck. How are you doing?
That's one of my favorite things about the trailer is that it looks like Andy Muschietti did something that even with all of our different crossovers, I haven't seen any other director do, Marvel, DC, anything, in that when you got teams combining, it's generally the director's vision. Like the Russo brothers direct the same in Winter Soldier as they do in Infinity War. They don't go, okay, this is a Guardians frame, I'm going to shoot this like James Gunn. Muschietti did something I've always wanted to see someone do, which is more like a jazz artist splash page, when you've got like Jim Lee drawing Spider-Man and like Arthur Adams drawing Batman, and there's different artists in a splash page. Muschietti directed the Tim Burton shots like Tim Burton. Like the Batman looked like Tim Burton framing,
and when
then
Zod
Snyder,
Snyder,
it looked like. But then when it was Flash, it looked like Muschietti styled in it and all those things.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So I loved the framing looking like an actual collaboration of universes. So I'm really excited to see those movies meld in a new way and also blend that with the Flashpoint comic, which they're not directly adapting clearly, because I think Supergirl is going to be. So in the comic book, he lands, there's no metahumans, and he discovers that Superman has been trapped in a facility.
The government got him.
And he basically is scrawny and emaciated because he doesn't have the yellow sun.
Right.
So I'm curious if she's going to be tortured or if she comes in and she was tortured in Krypton. Like, they can still play with those elements. But we don't know if Thomas Wayne is involved, because that'd be cool to have Jeffrey Dean Morgan or Ben Affleck play him. But we don't know what element the darker Batman is going to play, and if that's Keaton or Affleck.
Yeah, well, then there was the one when I was reacting to it. There was the Bat Cycle, and I was like, "Is that Bale?" And
that's what I kept thinking.
But the only
2
reason,
wheels.
but which was hilarious. Out of all the people, guess who pointed that out? He said, "Well, actually, it's he said it's actually
a 2-wheel cycle."
So I was doing a show, and someone goes, "Well, actually, it's 2 wheels, so it's probably Ben Affleck."
Who said it?
Take a guess.
So, somebody on the show?
Just somebody that we.
Oh my God! Was it Brett?
It was Brett.
Wow!
You wouldn't have posed that question if it wasn't
true.
somebody
That's true.
off the
Somebody
wall.
incredulous.
Brett was the one who goes.
The flash with the
actually,
focus.
and I was like, yeah, it's true. That it was absolutely. It was probably Ben Affleck.
Yeah.
which is true.
There's that gray and blue suit. Looks gorgeous.
I'm excited to see this one, man, and it's the end of June, and that's going to be right where we are going to be in New York. I mean, we'll be in New York, and then Stamford. 23rd and 24th, we're going to be in Manhattan. And then we'll be in Stamford on the 24th. The tickets aren't on sale yet, but we'll probably be doing a flash podcast, at least for myself and Winston and Coy for the Manhattan show. We'll probably be talking about the Flash in depth that night. So once we get the tickets on sale, I'll let you guys know. And we'll probably be doing it through a new website that I'm setting up. And we're going to start to move tiers off of the Patreon onto the website, the exclusives, the watch-alongs, the one-on-ones, things gradually. But I just wanted to give everybody a heads up. Another thing that you should have a heads up in is if you got yourself a beard, everybody, then you should be using that beard hedger. That's right, Manscaped, beard hedger. Manscaped now sells beard products. Yeah, they're revolutionizing men's grooming with the brand new beard hedger. I love this thing. It's awesome. Now, if you guys want to use it, and you should use it, you go to manscaped.com. You got to use that code BIGTHING. You get 20% off and free shipping. How many of you have been using Manscaped? Because since we've been talking about, since the SEN days, man, we've been using Manscaped for 3 years. And now they have a beard trimmer. Are you kidding me? This beard hedger is awesome. Tame your mane. You don't want a weird beard. Do it. Get it. It's amazing. But it's waterproof. They have a titanium-coated T-blade. They have beard shampoo and conditioner, beard oil, beard balm. And the Pro Beard Kit also comes with 3 free gifts. It's got a beard brush, you got a comb, you got scissors. It all ensures that your beard is ready to impress. So if you want to get 20% off and free shipping with that code BIGTHING, you go to manscaped.com. 20% off, free shipping at manscaped.com. But you have to use that code BIGTHING. It's Manscaped, baby. The beard hedger. 1 stroke, 1 guard, 20 lengths. I don't know what else I can tell you. If you're going to the grocery store and you're getting those razors, whether it's on your face or on your ball bag, you're doing it wrong. I've been giving you tips for a long time on Manscaped. Go to the linked comment there, help yourself out, and get yourself some Manscaped. All right. We'll throw to Winston here. Winston, I'm assuming you're going to want to do the one that we just kind of mentioned. But I'll leave it to you.
Let's see. We already did that one. I'm curious about the MCU worst ranked.
All right, so Comic Book Movie did a thing. Last week it's hilarious. They did a list, and after we all were talking about like Jensen Ackles, and there was this whole big thing about how the potential of Jensen Ackles actually being Batman. This is something that they put. They said, with Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, the latest Marvel Studios deemed rotten by critics, they are taking a closer look at the 10 worst reviewed Marvel cinematic blockbusters. Now, this is the bad ones that have ranked. Number 10 is actually the first. This shows you how solid a lot of the franchise has been. Number 10 is Captain America: The First Avenger at 80%. So that's the lowest at 10. So, and then you got number 9, and that probably 77% is Thor, the first Thor. Interesting.
Okay. A B- and a C+ are 10 and 9
so far. And then number 8, Age of Ultron at 76. That one I would have guessed. If you had told me which ones are in the top 10, I would have guessed that one. The other 2 I wouldn't have guessed. Number 7, Doctor Strange: Multiverse of Madness is at 74%. Okay. Number 6, Iron Man 2 at 71%. I'm surprised that's as high as it is, to be honest. I like it. But there are people that usually say that one's the worst. All right, number 5 is The Incredible Hulk. This is stupid. At 67%. This is one of my favorite ones. I love this movie, The Incredible Hulk. 67%. Sniff my farts. Again, I like this movie a lot. All right, before we get into the top 5 or top 4 rather, let's ask you guys. Well, let's see. So we know Eternals.
Eternals number 1.
And Ant-Man.
They put
Ant-Man in there. So the other 2.
I'm going to say 3 is Dark World.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say 4 is
Ant-Man 2.
I don't think it was that.
How did Guardians 1 and Guardians 1, Guardians 2 did pretty good.
Probably be. I just had it. Oh man.
Love and Thunder, maybe.
Oh, Love and Thunder. Yeah.
It might be Love and
Yeah, I
Thunder.
think you're right.
It might be.
So
that.
two
It is
Thors.
It is Love and Thunder.
So Dark World, Love and Thunder, I think.
Yeah, I think because Love and Thunder when I
So-
checked last was at 64.
Should be
Love and
Captain
Thunder.
Marvel.
So 3 of the 4 Thor films.
What is Captain Marvel? How does Captain Marvel
Captain
not
Marvel did
Captain
pretty
Marvel
well.
It did pretty well critically.
over
Just-
It made $1
80%?
billion.
That doesn't mean I'm
No, but like
sold a lot of-
I think
To my
both
knowledge,
critically and financially.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Ranked
not
higher
great.
than Captain America?
Yeah,
The first
Yeah,
one?
yeah.
That's Salah.
it's not correct, but I think that is the way it is.
That's Salah.
That's in my bottom 4 Marvel films, and it does not. It's one I also don't rewatch, which is
So
true.
we're predicting that 4 is Thor: Love and Thunder. 3 is Dark World. 2 is Ant-Man and Quantumania, and 1 is Eternals. All right, let's see. So coming in. Number 4, Thor: The Dark World, at 66.
all right. So what's 3?
3 is probably Love and Thunder, I would assume. So at 3,
Yep,
Love and
there it is,
Thunder,
okay.
they're both at 64%.
Okay, so it's
there
really
you go. So
subjective
they're
which
tied.
order.
Yeah, they're tied. It just depends on who has more reviews. 2 is Ant-Man Quantumania at 51%, and then Eternals
really
at
good.
47.
That is rough.
Yeah, man. I mean, look, I need to look up Captain Marvel.
Yeah, and while you're doing that, like
Yeah.
I got into, I think the beginning of my my Twitter thing, which has been discussed at length in the show, I was saying that celebrating failure is different than actually having criticism. Critique
Right.
and celebrating failure are different. An article like this is looking at just the math of it. The thing I took issue with was people going, something has failed, we should celebrate.
Now, wait a minute.
I agree.
Hey, yeah, what is this?
They were wrong.
They were wrong.
They were wrong.
Because immediately
was-
just
what was
proved their
their
list.
lowest?
80.
80. So Captain Marvel is the number 10.
And that brings me to my point in that I don't like that I didn't like Captain Marvel. I don't celebrate Captain Marvel not working because I like the character, I like the actress, I like the pieces of it. But for me, this movie felt, inexpensive, and it wasn't, and it felt like the twist wasn't a twist. There was a lot of things wrong, but I would rather a movie do good.
Right.
So I feel like people that are celebrating Ant-Man's failure aren't. That's not criticism.
And the funny thing is that I came to your defense about this because I agree with you. I don't think that there's anything wrong with critiquing something if something is bad.
Right.
So I have been very vocal about how I don't like the Medea movies. I personally think that they are not good art.
Has Medea gone to space yet?
She's been to jail twice. She's been to jail once. She's been into 2 different haunted scenarios. She did Christmas.
But no space.
No space.
Come on,
that's probably the next.
You gotta
It's
go
right
to
there.
space.
It's probably the next.
Yeah,
one.
come on.
But
And a Fiero.
there are people that like it, and that's fine.
Yeah.
There is nothing. I do not celebrate any losses
Right.
in
Right.
that camp, and in the same way, it doesn't help. And then someone tried to counter, be like, see all the people that were celebrating when Snyder failed. I was like, no. I saw people say this isn't good, and we should stop doing it, and we should stop kowtowing to people. But I never saw people celebrate. And he was like, well, people were celebrating with things that happened with his daughter. I was like, then those people are going to hell.
That's so messed
That's
up.
That's not. I did not see any of that. And so this weird vitriol where people like to celebrate failures, especially knowing how much work
Right.
goes into making a movie.
It's one of the reasons I stopped doing the top 10 worst list. To be honest with you, I don't take away from anybody who does them. That's fine. A lot of people do the top 10 worst list, but I stopped doing those. I mean, I'll talk about a bad movie.
I did one, but what I did was I did the 10 worst superhero films, and what I did was I said what worked, what didn't, how I changed it to make it better. But I focused on this is what is very good about this film. This is where it didn't land.
Right.
So I was still trying to be positive in the worst,
Yeah.
but I know that worst gets clicks. And instead of not having people go over there, it was like, how do we reframe this to make it better?
Sure. I mean, like I said, I'm not taking away from anybody who does those lists, but I think there's a way to present it, and like you just said.
Yeah.
But either way, so that's the ranking that they have. You can check out that list on Comic Book Movie, the list. Although know that number 10 is actually not accurate. All right, Coy.
All right, so we've got a few here that are really interesting, but I do want to stay with Marvel, I think, and this Feige update was way big, and I actually did a 1 minute speed around TikTok on it because it was very specific.
Tell us about it as you start to tell us about it. Yeah.
So we had Spider-Man, Deadpool, Daredevil, a lot of my favorite characters are getting a rapid update, but it's all tied into kind of a slowdown. So I love that they're basically taking our notes in real time. We're getting what we need. Yeah, just in real. That also in real time. But we're getting basically Kevin Feige is his fingers on the pulse. He knows that the abundance of content hasn't been working. He knows that we need to slow down and basically addressing. They are going to use the Fantastic Four as the pillar of the MCU. They are going to be bringing in the X-Men, and now they know how. There's just a ton of data in this small update.
I have a prediction.
What do you got?
I think after all this, when Kevin Feige, this movie comes out, Quantumania, it's the second lowest. People have been kind of talking about there's too much stuff right now. There is, there's Phase 4 was arguably the worst out of the phases thus far. There's a lot of it. I'm not as I still like going to the Marvel movies and watching them too, but I'm not like excited the way I was for the first three, right? It's like I'm waiting for No Way Home was the last one. I was just like, that was great. I want to see that type of thing happen again. But my prediction is this: I think this is Feige's last run.
I think 5 or 6, I guess. He's got a map.
I think he continues. I think he finishes out. I think he moves to Star Wars.
I was wondering if that was what you're thinking.
I think my prediction is, because I had gone away from that. I had gone away and gone, nah, it ain't gonna happen. I think Kevin Feige takes over for Star Wars. It is noted that I think he's more of a Star Wars fan than he is even a Marvel fan. And
I think he might be now.
And I think when you listen to him, the things that he said, he's been a big Star Wars guy. But I think this is his swan song. I think 5 and 6 are his swan song. I think he walks away, and I think he takes over Star Wars.
I think Iger's a big part of allowing that to, because Iger's been very clear about like, hey, less shows, hey, quality over quantity, hey, blah blah blah.
Yep.
But in doing that, he also sees the void in his Marvels versus Star Wars situation. He was very vocal, like, we need theatrical Star Wars. We need all these things. Someone has to run it. And if things are transitioning lower for Marvel, Star Wars is going to pick up. Like, it's right there.
The only thing about that, and that's totally fine, because once 5 and 6 are over, I mean, I think the smart thing to do would to kind of soft reboot everything and not to try and continue.
Oh, I don't know. They're going to cover X-Men and Fantastic Four are going to probably take you into 7 and 8.
Which is why what I was concerned about, if this is kind of the end after these 2 phases and we move into a new era, whether it's Feige-less or whatever's going on, I was about to get real upset that we're about to get the X-Men, just have the X-Men ripped right out from under us.
They got to have a 10-year plan with them, too.
Yeah.
I feel like. And he even says in this quote that basically they've wanted to make sure they bring in the X-Men right. They've worked at it for years, and now they know how. So to me, that's a long journey.
Yeah,
Not just the origin, but the whole quest.
Let me read this article, and we'll kind of discuss it. But after a hit-and-miss Phase 4, the hope is that Marvel Studios will this is comic book movie again, will rebound with Phase 5. If the critical response to Ant-Man and the Wasp Quatumania is any indication, the multiverse saga is going to continue delivering mixed results, but Feige is definitely excited about MCU's future. During a recent interview with Entertainment Weekly, the executive shared the project he's most excited about, and that's 2025's Fantastic Four. We sort of talked about mutants and that whole aspect of the Marvel world, but Fantastic Four is the foundation for everything that came after in the comics. There's certainly been versions of it, but never in having the story of the MCU, and that's something that is exciting for us. People will start to hear more about that soon, he said, hopefully hinting at casting news. We plan on that being a big pillar of the MCU going forward, just the way that they have been in the comics for 50 or 60 years. Marvel's first family is clearly going to be front and center in the next era of MCU storytelling, something we're sure many of you will welcome. Feige was also asked where things stand with Blade, the movie starring Mahershala Ali, and it sounds like work is progressing. It's going well. Our director, Jan Damage, is now in Atlanta. Cameras roll in like 10 weeks or so. He finished by Daredevil Born Again, a place in the MCU, suggesting that the 18-episode Disney Plus series will be another experiment for Marvel Studios as they continue balancing stories on the big screen and small. It's Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio, and they're amazing actors and storytellers in their own right. That's sort of what I was talking about with the fun of episodic television. That's really what we're experimenting with. That's Daredevil in particular. All right, there's more to it.
There was more. He also mentioned the Marvels. When the 3 of them united, it was like the Avengers moment for him, saying like seeing them 3 on screen. He mentioned that Born Again is being episodic has the power to have more individual villains, so you'll have more villains in that show. He mentioned Spider-Man 4 is locked and that they just cracked the story, so there's actually pen to paper on Spider-Man 4. He mentioned that, there was one more thing. Deadpool 3, he's really proud of Hugh Jackman to come back, and that for the 53rd time it will be R-rated. It was a big old announcement.
Yeah, he's relying on, there's a lot of stuff that he's putting out there, Winston. So
it's like a mini D23. He was just like, I'm going to just spit out these 8 things.
Yeah, I think so. And I think it's also probably the direction of it and letting where it's going to go. But I tell you though, after what I will say, and Winston, I want to get your thoughts on everything that was kind of announced, what Coy just mentioned. But if you look at from Phase 4, even with Ant-Man, he can't be happy right now. I'm not talking money. I'm not talking money because money.
They make
because
money.
people can always say that, and I've said that as well too. You go, well, yeah, but they're making money, yeah, but the difference with the MCU is doing for so long, as we just mentioned, like the number 10, it was in that list. Let's say 79%,
right?
It's still a high number.
Oh, huge for a franchise.
That's a high number for all the movies that they've done so far. So.
Also, if you think it's just about money, number 10 being $1.3 billion.
Right.
Like, if you think that's what it's about, it's not.
No, but in that list that we just mentioned, right? Thor: Love and Thunder, Doctor Strange: Multiverse of Madness, Eternals, and Quantumania were all in the top 5 or 6.
Yeah.
That's within the last like two-ish years.
So they're doing something wrong with the way that they're putting together.
Right.
They're not doing what they used to do. And maybe, is it storytelling? Is it cast? Is it, I don't know what it is, but it's not working the way that it used to.
I think what they're doing is they forgot what made them magic in the first place, and I think part of that was because they stumbled into this. There was a plan. There was this idea, but they figured it out as they went. I think what the trap that they've fallen into is the similar trap that the DCEU had, actually, is this idea of like, and then we're going to have Secret Wars, and then Kang's going to fight all the Avengers at the same time. You built up to Thanos coming up. That wasn't an idea you had. You maybe had it a little bit because you had Thanos kind of turn around at the end of Avengers, but you figured that out slowly but surely. You had a plan, but it was a short plan, followed by another short plan, followed by another short plan. In this case, you said, and now here is our 15-year plan. And it was all equally important. It's all going to come at once. And so you, as was mentioned, spread too thin, too many ideas. It feels like you lost that hunger, that focus. It's like a team that was on the drive to get that first championship, and it is so much harder to get the second because you don't have the same kind of pinpoint focus that you did the first.
Conor after Khabib, man. It's that lack of drive.
It's
already won.
Well, that's part of it, I think, but there's also the idea too that I think that one of the reasons that they're scaling back, like one of the other stories, we'll talk about it now, including in this, is that Loki and Secret Invasion are the only 2 shows now that are going to be coming out, as opposed to the 4 that we thought we were getting. That reported that Echo is getting pushed back. Certainly true. Armor Wars is a movie now. Now, by the way, they said that the 2 guaranteed to come out this year are those 2. Agatha was confirmed for this year. I guess they're pushing that back.
Oh, wow. That's a really good point.
So
that's not like CGI.
Agatha and Daredevil, right?
No, Daredevil wasn't supposed to come back for like another year or 2.
They're filming it for like 8 months.
Okay, so then that pushes back What If, because that was season 2.
That was supposed to come out too.
Yeah.
But I think I think it's a good move.
Yeah.
Because that's another thing. There's a lot of it. And you said about your friend before, right? There's a lot you have to keep up to, and like the one time, and I usually am on when Feige says certain things, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. The one thing he said that I was like, what are you talking about, guy? When he said that, oh, I don't think you need to watch WandaVision in order to know what's going on in Doctor Strange: Multiverse of Madness. You're crazy. Like you'd be so confused about like, why is she bad now?
Well, I think the team that made it should have watched WandaVision a little bit more.
I agree. I mean,
should have been more.
The funny thing about it is you technically don't have to, but it genuinely is.
It enhances it.
1,000%.
Yeah, and that's the thing though, is that like where it is, and this has been one of the criticisms by a lot of people after watching Quantumania, was that this is a full-on TV show now. Like everything, like even the post-credit scenes are setting up things that continue to happen. As much as they like to say that, no, it was always planned, setting up Ironheart in Black Panther Wakanda Forever was setting up another TV show. So that character was, my opinion, thrown in there to set up this ongoing thing. So we like, oh yeah, I remember her from the movie.
Did you see her screen test with Chadwick?
No.
It just came out. It was
great?
so beautiful.
Oh,
like
no,
because we never got to see Chadwick.
Not Letitia. You're talking about with Dominic.
Dominic, yeah.
Yeah.
So Dominic Thorne did a screen test with Chadwick, and I don't know why, but
cool.
I never thought in my brain I never thought they got to meet,
right?
Because we didn't see them together. So it was this really beautiful moment where I got to see the characters that I know connect in a very special way. It was a really beautiful screen test because
cool.
There's something like therapeutic about a last moment with them.
Well,
and
the other thing I just saw was when Muschietti had hired, and it's probably came out a while ago,
cool.
when he hired Sasha for the role of Supergirl. And he gives her the role, and he asks her. He's like, "The question I have, I got to ask you another question." She's like, "Okay, I've just been thinking about it the whole time." And he goes, "Can you fly?" And she's like, "What do you mean? Like, can I get there?" And she's like, "No, can you physically fly?" She's like, I will if you need me to. And she's like, well, what do you like? No, of course not. He goes, well, will you wear this? And he puts up the Supergirl. And then in this video that I saw, they put like the Superman music behind it. And she was like, it was pretty great. So yeah, like moments like that.
Man.
That's
what makes all this like worth it. And that's what I don't think is lost. A lot of people are complaining about fatigue, which admittedly I'm feeling for the first time.
Yeah.
But there is those moments, like in Ant-Man, for example, when we finally see Jonathan Majors in the suit. It is such a moment. And I don't think if we have a moment a month, that's healthy. I think it is better to have 2 shows this year. The movies that are already coming out, spread it out a little bit.
Yeah, I like that they're pulling back.
Effects.
I like that they're pulling back. I think that you pull back, I think it'll have more impact for it too, because I think that having that much, if you're going to have that many movies, also it's a lot to keep, because of the idea that you have to keep up with it all.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right. You can watch these movies and say, okay, I understand that too, but it enhances it if you watch everything. And it's like my daughter, right before we saw Quantumania, I had her watch Loki. Like, she wasn't all caught up with everything because there was no chance we could catch up with everything, right? Because we finished Endgame, we finished WandaVision, right? And then there was a couple other ones that were coming up, and she's like, well, which one should I watch before? And I was like, you should watch Loki, because you don't necessarily have to, because He Who Remains is significantly different from Kang. However, if you do watch that, you understand the significance of what happens at the end of that show.
They brought so much from Loki into Quantumania, as far as there's a very
this is something.
There's plenty. Yeah. There's plenty there. There's a discussion that He Who Remains has that's important, both about Kang, that's not a spoiler because we know Kang is in this movie. So there's plenty said about Kang.
Yep.
There's plenty said about timelines. There's a lot there that is important. And you don't need it to see Quantumania, but God does it make it so much better.
It enhances it. And that's,
technically, you can watch Empire without New Hope, technically. But you should watch the...
Yes, but here's the thing, though.
Who's that Vader guy?
But this is also one of the reasons why the scale back works, because for the casual viewer, for the John Pintos of the world, it is very hard for people to watch all this stuff.
Yeah.
We do it. We watch all this stuff not only because we enjoy watching it, but because it's work. Right. And it's like, it's a lot. It's a lot. And so by pulling back, you allow yourself to kind of set up. This is why my prediction goes to he gone after 5 and 6. He gone.
I don't disagree.
Here's the other thing that I think is really important. So I know both of you guys know this about Disney. Disney is infamous. They're up there with HBO that if it does not meet their standards, gets the axe. It doesn't matter if they've spent years working on something. They'll just kind of ice it. That's the one thing that's actually been really interesting about the MCU. It felt that way pre-Infinity War and Endgame. It felt like that TLC, even though the movies were coming out pretty rapidly, there was a lot of eyes on to make sure certain things were under their... I don't get that feeling right now. And a lot of that, I think, is because we've had too much. There's too much to kind of keep an eye on.
True.
I just also feel for Kevin Feige. If he's the guy overseeing the shows and overseeing the movies,
too much.
There's just an amount of hours in the day. He's doing more than The Rock. There's just
Which
so
is
many
nuts.
things.
Well, it's crazy how much stuff he's
at once.
And it's because...
Look at the announcement you just made.
Right.
That's
and it's
crazy.
because of the he's got to have his...
How old is he?
I mean, he can't be more than 51, 52 years
50s,
old.
right?
The only reason why I ask is because, I know you said after this he's moving on to Star Wars. If after this, I would retire, bro. He's made so much money. I know he does, but
he's only 49.
Okay, you just made so much money, and like you said, this man is stressed. I know he loves it, but this man has to be stressed.
But this goes back to my sports analogy, right? Yeah. Is that the thing is you look at, I'll use Boston, even though you're not a big baseball guy, but Theo Epstein is the one I use all the time. Theo Epstein became the GM of the Boston Red Sox and took them to their first title in 80 some odd years, whatever it was. And then he left. They won a couple titles. And then he went to Chicago and they won their first World Series in however many years it was. Now, Star Wars has a bunch of championships. When you look at monetarily, there's no doubt about it. But as far as that kind of, I don't know, overall love and connectivity and community that the Marvel Cinematic Universe have for those first 3 phases, Star Wars hasn't had that in a long time. Yeah. So if Feige
can bring that,
can jump to, because the difference is this too, and I said this about Star Wars Celebration the other day on Sith Council. The problem is that when you get Kathleen Kennedy up there making an announcement at D23 or Celebration, it feels like a suit reading the prompter and say, well, this is what we came up with the boardroom. This is what they wrote for me, and this is my announcement. When Feige gets up there and he's telling everything, it's just like, this is him geeking out with it, him going,
so
oh my
excited.
God, what if we do this? And guys, we've got this coming out. And ladies and gentlemen, Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio. He gets like all jazzed up about it. And like, if you get him to do that, guys, I came over and he would give props to Kathleen Kennedy as he should and be like, what Kathy did and everything too, but now I get to come over and I get to play in the Star Wars sandbox and I got a chance to do what we did over at Marvel, over at Star Wars, and here's the plan that we kind of all agreed with the great minds over there, and he knows how to present it.
The reason I think he doesn't retire is, and this is a shameless name drop, it's coming and you're going to give me crap, but whenever I've talked to Kevin Feige, he cares about the fan.
Oh my God.
At Comic-Cons and Worlds. No, this is relevant. Is that he cares so much about the fan experience that he asks about what I've heard from the fans.
Right.
He doesn't just go like, what did you think of this, you individually? Like when I introduced him to Greg and John, he asked what the comments were about the Hawkeye reactions. So not only does he care about the fan experience that's from us, he cares about like the minutia, but knows better than to read it himself. Whatever like that barrier is.
He plays into it.
I think the reason he stays is I don't know that he's going to find, even in retirement and rest, that connectivity that he clearly goes for. Like, he likes the actual connecting.
And he's 49. I mean, look, again, speaking of Kathleen Kennedy's got to be 68. And maybe that's not true. Maybe she's 65. Let me see. Maybe I'm wrong. Let's see how old Kathleen Kennedy is. I think if I was to guess, I'd say 60.
Oh, very
she's
good.
Almost
69.
She's almost 70 years old. Okay. Now, if someone's going to retire, it could potentially, and I don't think she's retiring anytime soon. Not necessarily from Lucasfilm. I think she's going to do. I think she does. I mean, people are saying that the rumors are that she's going to retire after Indiana Jones. Not retire, excuse me. Leave Star Wars after Indiana Jones. That they already decided this with Disney. I don't know how true that is. What I think is going to happen is I think that and this is all relevant to what we're talking about with Feige, but I think that what happens is I think she's going to announce they said today that they're going to announce the movies, or the report is they're going to announce the new movies and the plan at Celebration.
Yeah.
She's going to have her name and her stamp on those movies, on Lindelof and all that too. She'll be a producer on it, even if she leaves. She'll be a producer on it, right? So what will happen is I think she's going to announce those movies. They're going to go into play. Her contract ends in 2025. I think the Indiana Jones comes out. It's a massive hit. These other shows come out. They're big hits for Disney+. She's got that movie with Lindelof with her name on it. Walks away. That's right around the same time, 2025. We're also going to get, Fantastic Four and Secret Wars, and all that ends in 2025, right? The last one is that maybe the Avengers. I think the last one comes out in 2026. But same thing. Feige goes 2025, has his name on the credits. It's like what Gunn's doing with Guardians. He's got one more thing he's got to do, and then he takes over when she leaves. That's my prediction.
And in that way, he gets his fingerprints on X-Men and Fantastic Four like he wants. But
sets up everything and walks away, and she sets up everything and walks away.
You should clip this out, and if that happens, then
I'll be a genius.
Then, well, not just that, someone needs to pay you. They need to. You get to come back here like 3 years from now and go, I told you.
Well, you know who was the king of that? Was rest in peace, the sweaty man.
Yeah, man.
John Schnepp would do that all the time. I can't even tell you how many times to this day, a week ago, someone's like, he predicted the future, and there was things that he would talk about. He talked about Kang and all that stuff.
He's the biggest MODOK fan in the world.
Yeah.
He and Peyton Reed talked about MODOK years ago.
Yeah. So
me and the only conversations I ever had about MODOK were with Schnepp, and then like other people telling me about MODOK's thing with Schnepp, to the point where that Schnepp had MODOK ice cube trays. So Schnepp's ice was MODOK. So like this dude was so ahead of the curve with what was going to be popular. Oh, dude, it's insane.
Yeah.
But like so many people I talked to, like David Desmalchin, who's I think maybe the MVP of this movie's not the surprise cast. They had a lot of MVPs, but his work here being so different from his other work in Ant-Man is delightful. That dude loved MODOK, and like him and Schnepp would talk about it. So when I was watching the movie, I was still thinking of Schwetti.
Got it. Yeah. So anyway, there's a lot coming, guys. There's a lot
coming.
Very, very in-depth episode of Big Thing Capes and Cowls here too. Out of the stuff that we talked about, guys, what stood out? Is it the fact that was that list? Do you agree with us that the MCU right now it needs a boost? They need to get themselves back on track. Can they, or is it just time? Like, hey, like all good things come to an end. How do you feel about it in general? We're gonna find out as far as the box office goes. I don't think we're ending anytime soon, but I do think that they need to get their the quality back for sure. Coy, where can I find you?
Find me on YouTube, trying to grow that beast. Made a really fun video yesterday about Kevin Feige and Superman and how Superman pretty much informed the MCU. I'm trying to build that more over there. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all at Coy Jandreau. My name, spelled like my name.
Winston?
Yo. At the Swaggy Blurred, you see me right there underneath my name. Got stuff over on my YouTube channel as far as like reviews and comedy stuff. We're doing a podcast about Bel Air season 2 called Watch the Throne. Definitely come and check that out, as well as a new comedy podcast I haven't announced quite yet, but that is coming as very soon as well. So yeah, come find me. What's up?
All right, and as I mentioned to you guys earlier, we're going to be doing some stuff, live events. We're looking to do one in LA, hopefully in April, and then we will be moving to doing some stuff in New York, June 23rd, June 24th, Manhattan on the 23rd, Stanford on the 24th. Once I have those tickets on sale, I'll let you know ASAP. All right, guys, thank you so much, and to the great Wicked Art for doing this intro and outro, I guess it is. It's Capes and Cowls, everybody. We'll see you on the flip side. Peace.